All right. Hey, zoology, and welcome. We are going to talk today a little bit about the phylum Platyhelminthes and then a very specific class in that phylum. Again, as you take these notes, you may use these notes on a quiz that you're going to take the next time I see you. So it's really important that you take good notes from here. Also, your reading is going to help you that we assigned the other day so that you can do well on the quiz. So make sure they're nice and organized. If at any time you need to pause, please make sure you're doing that. Okay, so in the phylum Platyhelminthes, the animal that we find there are called flatworms, and so this is just some information you do not need to get down. This is just general stuff you can read about if you'd like, but I would just know phylum Platyhelminthes is where we find flatworms, and there's just a little picture of one right there. Okay, so to be a flatworm, what are some characteristics? Number one, all flatworms are triploblastic animals, which means they have three primary germ layers. Again, the three layers right here, and we went over in class the other day, is the ectoderm, the endoderm, and then this is the first animal that has a mesoderm. Can you guys see that? Um, because they're all stuck together and there's no space, these animals are also considered to be acoelomates. They don't have a coelom, which means they don't have a true body cavity. What you see is all three of these structures are stuck together. There's no space in between them. So we kind of talked a little bit about that in class. And then just appreciate this, that there are three different phyla of worms that are acoelomates. The only one that we're going to be talking about in zoology is the one are the flatworms here. I would like you to appreciate that there are other ones in these phylums here, but they're in low quantity, so we usually don't get to them in our zoology class. So we're going to be talking about the phylum Platyhelminthes. Okay, so some other characteristics that you should have already read about is these animals have bilateral symmetry, which means they have cephalization, which means they do have a head. Again, you can see that they have a head right there. What we're going to talk about today is their head is going to be a little bit different than what you think of, like what you have as a head. They do have a mesoderm, which again means this is the reason why these animals have really good movement. These are the first types of animals that can move. Because of that mesoderm, they have muscles. All right, and we'll show you some examples of these movements here in just a second. All right, some other things that I just would like you to know is that even though they are a little bit more complicated than a jellyfish, most of what they do, they rely on diffusion for breathing, even excretion, even though they do have some organs to help with excretion, it's all through diffusion of their body and circulation, which means they really don't have like a heart. So they're still pretty simple animals, is basically what that means. All right. So there are four classes in the phylum Platyhelminthes. Of the four classes, the one that we are focusing our attention on today is the class Tubellaria. These are our free-living flatworms. All other flatworms are some type of parasite. And so this is what you're going to be doing your research on. You've chosen a worm and you will present that, through a discussion into your class. All right. So you guys get to research that. We're just going to talk about Tubellaria today. So we are really just going to be talking about these animals here. They're called a planarium. And then all of these, like tapeworms and flukes, those are the parasitic ones that you're researching. So in the class Tubellaria, and this is again what your quiz is going to be about. One more time, class Tubellaria, these are your free living bottom dwellers. They can live in freshwater or they can live in the marine environment. And a lot of free living flatworms in the ocean are really pretty. And I will show you some examples of those later on. Here are some examples right there of some free living flatworms. The way they go about feeding is usually if you're a free living flatworm, you can do a variety of feeding techniques depending on your species. So some are carnivores, some are scavengers, and some are herbivores. Again, what's kind of strange is they do have a digestive cavity, not a digestive tract. And so they only have one opening, which is their mouth. They do not have an anus, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. In fact, this is what they have. This is what they use for feeding. So this is a really important structure. You've already hopefully read a little bit about it. It's called a pharynx. And a pharynx is a muscular tube that extends out of the mouth and pumps food into their digestive cavity. Again, not digestive track is just a cavity that they have. It's weird. So please note, their mouth is not where their head is. Okay, that's a little strange. Their mouth is in the middle of their body. The mouth is just the opening. This pharynx is a muscular tube that goes in and out of the animal. Like this animal's getting ready to eat. That's just why it's extended. And then they grab food with their mouth and eat it. And I'll show you an example of that here in just a second. Okay, so their pharynx. Again, here's another picture. This is their pharynx extended, and then this is their mouth. Again, mouth not on their head. Mouth is not on their head. The way they go about moving, because they have a mesoderm, they have muscles, but they also use cilia with these epidermal cells that they have to glide in the water and over the bottom of streams and ponds. So just kind of know that they do have cilia on their underneath side there, okay? And then they do some weird movements. They're called class tubularia because they're kind of like tubulant when they move. And I'll show you some examples of that in a video when we are together. Okay. Now, how they perform excretion, and this is what you should have read a little bit about flame cells. Flame cells are ciliated structures that they have for excretion that induce currents so they can push fluids through these tubules to get out their waste. And you can see a whole series of these flame cells or tubules that they have located on the lateral sides of their body, where this is kind of an up close personal thing there. You can kind of see this is their excretory system with those flame cells. Okay. The other thing that they have is a nervous system. This is like the first complex nervous system that we see in animals, but again, it works for them. This would not work for us. They do have something called a brain, but when we say brain, it's not a real brain. It's called a cerebral ganglia. And a ganglia, whenever I think of a ganglia is like a gang of nerve cells working together. Okay, so it's not a real brain like what we would have. But you can see it down here. There's two of them. One, two, and then extending from their cerebral ganglia are nerve cords, longitudinal nerve cords, and it literally looks like a ladder. Can everybody see that? It does give them a ladder appearance, and a lot of times we refer to their nerves, their nervous system as a ladder-like appearance. Okay, I think I have a little bit better picture right here. Again, can you see it looks like a ladder? You can see their brain down below here. This is their cerebral ganglia. Connected to it are two nerve cords that connect with these transverse nerve cords to make, a ladder-like appearance. All right, the last two structures are auricles and ocelli. And again, auricles, another name for an auricle is a chemoreceptor. This is on the side of their heads. They do look like little ears, but they're not using them for hearing, okay? They're helping them to taste the chemicals in the water to see where their food is. So there's sensory lobes on the sides of the head to help them find food. These are called your auricles, or another name for them is a chemoreceptor. They also have ocelli. This is the fancy name for eye spots, and you can see them right here. It helps them with light. I mean, they're not like eyes like you and I have, but another name for them is called a photoreceptor. So photo means they're helping to find light. Again, I would be able to use the word eye spots and ocelli back and forth. They mean the same thing. All right. So just to kind of show you a nice summary of everything, I'm going to go to a video really quick. I'd like you to see how this all kind of works together. Okay. So here it is.
It is in flatworms like planaria that we first see bilateral symmetry and cephalization, the localization of the sense organs in the head region. A pair of ocelli, light-sensitive eyes.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it there. Can everybody see the light-sensitive eyes, ocelli? And then these little structures they're going to talk about are the auricles or the chemoreceptors. So this is how they find food. Check it out.
Eye spots are located toward the center of the head. Lobes extending from either side of the head contain chemosensory cells. Planaria feeds using the protrusible
Okay, so this is their pharynx that's coming out of the middle of their body. So it's like it found some food. So the pharynx comes out, and then this is their mouth. So check out how they feed. They actually have to get on top of their food to feed. Check it
muscular
out.
pharynx.
Kind of weird. And then it goes back in when they're not eating. There we
The
go. Check it out.
chemosensory cells on the lobes are used to locate the food. Through rhythmic contraction of the muscular pharynx,
See it right there.
planaria pumps the food into the gastrovascular cavity with a siphon-like action.
Okay. So that just kind of gives you a real life look at what's going on there with our planarian. Again, just to kind of sum up, again, here's that nice little picture that I keep referring back to. You can see the eye spots and the oracles, and then there's that pharynx, all right? And then how they reproduce. This is something I'm even going to have you read in your packets, pages 8 through 9, how some can reproduce these flatworms. Basically, what you should be reading about is that they are monoecious. And flatworms in the class Tubularia, some of them do this thing that I'll show you later called penis fencing, is how they are able to reproduce. So you're reading about it, and I will show you a video about it when we are together. Okay, so to sum up everything, we're now done, but check it out. This is a nice picture. I'm hoping you drew a picture in your homework assignment. And if you want to draw another picture right now, you can. You can pause this. This goes over everything we've talked about. Again, the pharynx that's extended with the mouth, okay? These animals are monoecious. Can you see ovaries, kind of nucleated near their head, and testes? So they have both male and female parts in them. Down below, you can see the auricle. You can see their eye spots and their cephalic ganglia, or their cerebral ganglia is what we sometimes call it. That's their brain. And then they have that nerve cord, the lateral nerve cord that goes all the way down their body. And then these little guys right here, those are part of their excretory system called the flame cells. And you can see those going down your body. So this is a nice little representation of everything that we just talked about. When you come to class, the next time I see you, then I'm going to go from here. And this is the quiz that you're going to take. I'm going to ask you questions. So as long as you have everything that we've been talking about, you really should be good to go. Just make sure you have some good notes, okay? All right, thanks so much. Here's some questions that I might be asking you. Good luck. Make sure you have good notes.